Hey all, I'm back after a long gap. I'm sure you remember me. I'm Professor H. Srikant. You're aware of my YouTube channel, lecture series in political theory. I have come out with several talks on Marxism and critical political theory. This time, I'm coming out with a new series on liberal political theory. In this series, I will introduce to you the history and evolution of a liberal political tradition and discuss the fundamental ideas of different classical and contemporary liberal political thinkers. In this particular lecture, I will be focusing on the evolution of classical liberalism and explain to you the essential doctrine of the classical liberal thinkers. Liberalism continues to be one of the most influential philosophical outlooks in the contemporary world. Modern liberalism has its origins in the 18th and 19th century Europe. Liberalism brought tremendous changes in the social and political evolution of the European nations. Later, it had its resonance in many colonies, semi colonies, and also post colonial nations. Classical liberalism has encountered different challenges and transformations in the 20th century. It had its faithful supporters and also staunch critics, both in the West and also in the non Western societies. In the context of rising religious fundamentalism, authoritarian regimes, and radical politics around the world, liberalism as a theory and practice is both recommended and also critiqued by many. As a student of political theory, we should have a comprehensive understanding of its history, its doctrine, and also its impact and limitations. And this first lecture focuses on basically the history of classical liberalism and the essential doctrine that it puts forward. As stated, modern liberalism had its origins in the Europe. The society and state in the medieval Europe were feudal and hierarchical in nature. Economy was predominantly based on agriculture and handicrafts. The community and the church had a hold over the individuals. The people were subjects of the state with little or no citizenship rights. However, with the gradual growth of the middle class between 13th century and 18th centuries, the Europe underwent a major transformation following different events such as the Magna Carta 1215 AD, the Renaissance, the Glorious Revolution of 1688, the Industrial Revolution, the Enlightenment, the American War of Independence, and finally the French Revolution. The Europe witnessed great ideas in the works of philosophers like John Locke, Thomas Jefferson, Montesquieu, Voltaire, Immanuel Kant, Thomas Paine, Adam Smith, Bentham, J.S. Mill, and others. These philosophers floated new ideas such as natural rights, social contract, limited constitutional government, democracy, republicanism, separation of powers, secularism, toleration, citizenship, free trade, greatest happiness of the greatest numbers, liberty, gender equality, minority rights, and representative government. All these ideas became the foundations for modern liberal political theory. Classical liberalism laid emphasis on individuals and their rights. According to liberalism, individual is the center of the universe. The society is made of individuals, and the state exists for individual. Community, state, society have no meaning if the concerns and interests of the individuals comprising them are not taken care of. The society has no collective thinking of its own. It speaks through individuals. Liberalism is against subordinating the interests of individual to the dictates or interests of the collective. Individuals know what is in their best interest better than the community, the society, or the state. Liberalism lays emphasis on individual liberty, while some thinkers view liberty as a natural right, some others designated it as a civil right, nevertheless a right. Liberty is seen as a condition for individual development. Individual is able to pursue his interests and ambitions if only he is free from the restrictions imposed by community, society, and the state. Freedom or liberty enables the individual to pursue his or her passions and interest, and in turn, it benefits the whole society. Therefore, there should not be any restrictions on individual freedom as long as it does not curtail the other's freedom. Any restrictions imposed on individual freedom should be justified and should be in accordance with the law, never arbitrary or discriminatory. Classical liberalism views private property as an essential condition for individual liberty and for the growth of the nations. Liberalism defended the institution of private property. According to liberal thinkers, private property acquired through one's hard work is a right which cannot be taken away by the state or any dominant community or individuals arbitrarily or forcibly. Wealth is created not by the governments, but by the efforts and cooperation of individuals. Hence, it is good to leave the individuals to pursue their economic interests. Liberalism believes in the virtues of free competition and spontaneous market order. Free competition and market, they believe, bring the best in individuals and also in industry and business. Liberalism therefore advocates freedom in production and exchange. It seeks removal of obstructions to the growth of trade and industry. It recommends reducing arbitrary tariff barriers, and it wants taxes to be reasonable and expects the state to ensure that the freedom of contract and associations are respected by all. Liberalism advocates freedom for education and occupation. It opposes hereditary privileges and gender discrimination in social life. Liberals like J.S. Mill attacked the authoritarian family structure and advocated the need to treat the women as equal individuals and ensure their rights as citizens. Liberals lend support to the activities of voluntary organizations and associations of people in different spheres of social life. They advocate freedom of thought, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of conscience, freedom from discrimination. Free speech and mutual toleration are viewed as essential foundations for peaceful cooperation among the people. Classical liberalism advocates limited role for the state. Early liberals spoke of the state as a necessary evil whose duty is to protect the country from foreign aggression, to maintain law and order within the country, and to ensure due respect to contracts entered voluntarily. In course of time, the liberals approved a little more role to the state in development and welfare activities, but without disturbing the institution of private property. The state should perform only those functions which are agreed to upon by democratically constituted governments. Liberalism advocates representative government that draws its legitimacy from the people. The state should be based on the foundations of law. The liberals are against arbitrary rule and upholds the rule of law. Liberals understand that it is not enough to invoke the same law for all. It also stands for abolition of discriminatory laws and the tyrannical rule. Law is viewed as the guarantor of liberty. Liberalism is in a way synonymous with humanism, secularism, and scientific temper. Liberalism is against coercion and imposition of the will of the dominant majority over the minorities. It believes that the people's views, their manners, their lifestyle, or moral choices are not worthy of prohibition using drastic coercive power of the state. Liberalism advocates toleration of others' views, perspectives, and practices to the extent they do not violate the rights of other citizens. It welcomes differences of opinions. Liberals are against vulgar majoritarianism and respects the views of the minority and not censure or censor them. Individuality, originality, innovation, and diverse ideas are necessary for the evolution of human progress. That is what classical liberalism stood for. Historically speaking, liberalism played a very important role in fighting against the feudal and pre-capitalist values and practices. Liberalism, as I told you, upheld humanism, secularism, and scientific temper in public life. It stood for individual and civic rights. Liberal ideas facilitated the growth of capitalism, and it also became the foundations for modern liberal bourgeois democracies. Although it had its origins in the Europe, it spread to other parts of the globe in course of time. Liberalism actually inspired many anti-feudal, anti-colonial, and anti-imperialist struggles in the world. It also was a kind of ideological weapon against totalitarian and dictatorial regimes. However, liberalism is also accused for defending narrow individualism and for becoming an ideology of the bourgeoisie against the working class and other laboring masses, fighting for socialism or fighting against capitalist exploitation. More about these critical dimensions in my subsequent lectures. Hope this lecture made sense of the history and essence of classical liberal thinking. If you have comments, questions, or differences of opinions, you may write in the comment section. I will try to address those issues in my subsequent lectures. If you find my lectures useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with like-minded scholars and friends interested in political theory. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'll be coming out with another lecture soon in the next week. Thank you once again. Meet you soon.